G'day, it's Brak here, and today's episode is about war bosses. I'm going to be covering everything you want to know about war bosses, but I was too afraid to ask.
Orc Warbosses are the largest and most powerful of all the orcs in their tribe. Bloodthirsty and battle-hardened warriors, they are equipped with the best war gear that mechs can provide. They tower above the majority of all other greenskins. A warboss achieves and maintains his position of power purely because of his size and prowess in the savage arts of war.
Yes, today we delve into the most iconic unit in the Orc army, the Warboss. I love the Warboss. I am a firm believer that you can't have a war without one. In my most humble opinion, I think they are an auto-include in every list. Well, almost. Especially now that the big mech with shock attack gun has been nerfed. The Warboss is so versatile, and hey, he is one of the most iconic and fluffy units to command your army. Also, the Warboss is probably one of the strongest non-named character unit available to Orc players. As I said before, he is quite versatile and can fit into any clan or subculture. Before I go any further, I should state that when I am talking about the Warboss, I am referring to the Warboss as stated in the Codex datasheet. I am not going to be talking about the Warboss on a bike or any of the named characters such as Ghazghkull. That can be saved for future videos. The Orc Warboss is such an iconic unit, and if you have an Orc army or are thinking about getting an Orc army, then you really need to get one. However, it beggars belief that Games Workshop only has one product available as a standalone Warboss. And that is the Warboss with the big chopper. Look, it's a beautiful model. However, it's getting a bit old. It's over 20 years. And it's metal, but we won't hold that against it. Look, there is another Orc Warboss which you can buy from GW, and that can be found in the Orc Warboss Grux Boss Mob, and that comes with Gruk, the Warboss, 5 knobs and an ammo runt, and it's about 90 Australian dollars, which is a big ask if you only really want the Warboss. Sure, if you need knobs, then that's probably okay value, but consider that there's only one other model available and it only comes with a big chopper. It's kind of on the nose. Look, a power core on a Warboss is a wondrous thing, and it really irks me that Games Workshop don't sell you one, unless you want to take 5 or 6 of his closest friends. Look, a little while ago you could get the Gruk model alone, but sadly no, this isn't a thing anymore. Sadly, Games Workshop don't even supply that old classic, the Assault on Blackreach Warboss, a model which you can see in many an Orc army on the tabletop. If you want, you can probably find him on eBay. It's probably your best bet. There are also other third-party manufacturers out there that make interesting war bosses. I'm going to invite you to go online and discover them yourself. I'll probably leave that for another video. Okay, let's have a look at what makes this unit, what is my opinion, the best HQ unit. Let's check out his stat line. This is his bare bones stat line. It is as follows. Movement 5 inches, which is normal for most foot slogging orcs. Weapon skill is a 2+, or in other words, hits on a roll of 2 or more. Ballistic skill is a 5+. Yes, orcs aren't known for their shooting accuracy. Strength is 6, toughness is 5, wounds 6, attacks 4, and has an 4+ armor save. Now, these statistics aren't too shabby, not bad at all. He is reasonably strong and tough. He can both dish out and take a punch. He hits quite well, although 4 attacks seems a little lackluster for a beast of war who commands his troops because he is the biggest and baddest fighter. Good news, orcs do have certain tools within the rules which can make war bosses tougher, stronger, better. The first thing all orc players fielding a war boss must do, yes, I said must, is take the stratagem from the Saga of the Beast book, and that stratagem is the biggest boss. The biggest boss, orc stratagem. The bigger the Waaargh, the bigger the Warlord. These brutes are gigantic savage killers. The rule: use this stratagem before the battle. Select one warboss model in your army, add 1 to that model's wounds and attacks characteristics, and it gains a 4+ invulnerable save. You can only use this stratagem once per battle, and only if your army does not include Ghazghkull Thraka. Oh, before I get into what this means, as a bit of a side, look, if you haven't got a copy of the Saga of the Beast and you plan to run orcs, you really need to get yourself a copy of it. You can beg, borrow, or steal it. How you get it, well, that's just up to you. It's my opinion, it's what makes the orcs playable in 9th edition. So many cool things that are just beneficial for most of the orc units known to orc kind. Now let's have a look and see what the biggest boss stratagem does to those stat line. Movement 5, weapon skill 2+, ballistic skill 5+, so no change there. Strength 6, toughness 5, and here's the kicker: wounds 7 and attacks 5 with an armor save of 4+, or a 4+ invulnerable save. He's starting to look good. A bit more durable and a little bit more attacky, if that is the right word for it. Let's have a look at the Warlord traits to see if we can buff our war boss a little bit more. Look, there are some good Warlord traits in this list. Actually, most are good and can be useful. But for this video, we are more interested in trying to get the most out of the war boss's stat line. So let's have a look at the rules. 1. Follow me, lads. It's great, gives a great buff to other units, and an extra command point is always nice, but it does nothing to the stat line. Big killer boss. Adding 1 to wound rolls for your Warlord's attacks that target a vehicle or monster unit is kind of nice, but it only works on vehicles and monsters, so it's fairly situational. The Ard as Nails Warlord trait is sort of getting close to what I'm talking about. We're adding 1 to the Warlord's toughness characteristics, so that's not bad at all. Brutal but cunning, another situational rule. Rerolling hits with the fight phase is kinda nice. The extra damage is sweet, but it only works at certain times. Getting the best out of your Warboss should be probably all about consistency, I think. Well, that's my opinion anyway. Cunning but brutal. Cunning but brutal. Sneaky shenanigans can be fun, but it does nothing to the stat line. Might is right. This is my favourite. Add 1 to your Warlord strength and attacks characteristics. Let's have a look at those stat lines again. All the Ard as Nails does, it increases his toughness from 5 to 6. Now, this means that most weapons are strength 10 to strength 12, which there are some, not many, will need a 3 to wound as opposed to a roll of 2. So this is good. It's about as hard as your Warboss is gonna get. But seeing that Might of Right is something that I would take, and I really think that you should probably take it as well. But that's because of the way a Warboss should be used. He's an attacking beast. He's not really a defensive beast. And like most Orc units, they are paper tigers designed to do a few things before they cark it on the field. Sure, you do give up the Warboss, but such is Waaargh. Now, combining the biggest boss and the Warlord traits, the Warlord trait Might is Right, let's look at those stats. Movement, still 5. Weapon skill, 2+. Ballistic skill, 5+. Nothing changed there, but what looks really, really good is you've got strength 7. Toughness 5, so he can get hit by some of those bigger weapons. 10 and more will get a wound of 2. Wounds are 7, so he can last a bit longer, and if you have a pain boy to help him along, you can sort of get those back. If the pain boy rolls good, of course. 6 attacks. 6 attacks are great. Especially, we'll talk about the weapons a bit later. With high damage weapons, you can do some fantastic things with 6 attacks. And of course, you've got the save of 4+ and the 4+ invulnerable save. He's looking pretty enticing right now. He's starting to look like a beast, and we haven't given him any weapons as yet. Let's check out the weapon loadouts available. Let's have a look at the shooty weapons first. Now, the Warboss is armed with a combi weapon rocket launcher, 2 sluggers and stick bombs. There's also a power claw, but we're looking at shooty weapons. Now, you can swap the combi rocket for a custom shooter or a combi scorcher. Personally, I would take the custom shooter, but I'd really go with the model that you happen to have. Unless you want to have a hand at converting, then yeah, probably custom shooter, probably the best one. Look, with a ballistic skill of 5+, it doesn't really matter. War bosses are fighters, not shooters. Double sluggers. Look, it's a bit silly, but hey, you might as use them. The stick bomb, well, it might be good if you want to clear low tough things like guards or those pointy-eared guys. Are they Eldari, Elder? Who knows? But in all honesty, it's the melee weapons that we are interested in. Attack Squid. It gets this automatically and it costs nothing. And having 2 extra strength for -1 damage can be a bit handy in a scrap. Now the big chopper, that 2+ to the strength, which gives our war boss a strength 9. Now that's sort of made for slaying Primaris. That 2 damage is nice and consistent. However, it may struggle with large models such as monsters or knights. Whereas the Power Claw is great for slaying the big stuff, even though that D3 damage can be seen as inconsistent. Remember, we have given him 6 attacks at a -3, so that potential of bringing down most big things in one fight is there. I really think it's a good idea, so do try it. You are gonna love it. Personally, I favour the Power Claw. The big chopper is nice, but for me, it's definitely Power Claw for the win. Almost there. There are a couple of tools we can use to make this big bad boy even badder. Let's give him a shiny gubbins. Seeing that we are going to be giving this Warboss the Power Claw, the shiny gubbins you must take is the Killer Claw. Why? Well, there are 3 reasons. 1. The 3 damage instead of D3 is so good you are more consistent dishing out wounds. Do that again. 1. 3 damage instead of D3 damage makes it more consistent, and that is always a good thing when trying to inflict pain on your enemy. 2. You don't get the -1 to hit as you would with a normal Power Claw. So you are hitting on a 2+ and not a 3+, and that increases your chances of hitting your target. And number 3, you can re-roll wound rolls, so that's more potential to dish out 3 damage. The Killer Claw is probably the most popular shiny gubbins to go on a Warboss. It turns the Power Claw into a Killing Claw. But having said this, there are some lists popping up which forego the Killer Claw and replace them with the Cyborg body. Giving a Warboss the Cyborg body enables him to have a 5+ shrug. This is nothing to sneeze at, and it can help your boss last a little longer. According to Mathhammer, the Killer Claw is more reliable than the Cyborg body, but this is a dice game, and probability statistics is only an indication of how the die may roll, not an actual statistic. You don't know about that until after you have rolled the dice. Me, personally, I'd love to take the Super Cyborg body, but when push comes to shove, I have always gone and favoured the biff over the buff. One day I might do it. Now there is one shiny gubbins that you may want to consider, especially if you only have a Warboss with a big chopper, and that is the Head Whopper's Kill Chopper. It differs from the normal big chopper in two ways. You get a -2 armor penetration, which is okay. However, if you roll a 6+ to wound with this model, you get to inflict 2 mortal wounds. That's really good. Mortal wounds are a pretty rare thing with orcs, so this one might be fun. Now, before I go, just thought I'd let you know there are a couple of other things you can do to make your new buffed out boss a little bit more buffier. The first thing, take a weird boy and give him either the warpath. That way you give your warboss 7 attacks instead of 6. Or my favourite psychic power, the Fists of Gork. With this one, you can give your Warboss 2 extra strength and 2 extra attacks. Now this makes our buffier boss for 1 turn while the power is on, strength 9 and 8 attacks. Yes, 8 attacks. Imagine what you could kill with 8 attacks. With To Kill a Claw, of course. Devastating. And secondly, you could take a Pain Boy. This way, you can give your Warboss a 6-up shrug, plus the ability to repair him D3 wounds each turn, and that can help you keep your Warboss on the table a little bit longer. Well, there you have it. All you need to know about the Warboss. There are some great ways to make him an absolute beast on the table. Now, how I fit my Warboss is, I take 1, the biggest boss, 2, Might is Right, and 3, To Kill a Claw. I also take a Pain Boy for protection and the Weird Boy to make him kill ya. This combo works for me so well, but you may find some other tricks which I don't know which could work for you. If you do, I'd love to know what they are. So before I go, I'll leave this little pic of Brak. This is what I use on the table. He is a beast. He is the cyborg boss that you can get from Gear Guts, and I ordered him from OTP Terrain. There are links in the description. As for strategy for this marvelous creature, well, I only have one strategy with this guy, and that is to bash early and bash often. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can show your appreciation by liking, sharing and subscribing. Also, please don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can catch all my latest videos. Due to the global Nurgle related circumstances, I'm currently doing this full time. I would really appreciate it if you could show your support by becoming a Patreon member. For as little as $3 US, you can help me with my hobby and filming equipment. If you feel you can't commit long term, then you can always buy me a coffee. The links will be below in the description.